This month, as usual, we have a lot of exciting news. First update is related to Power BI. But first, let's head to connections. And we can see that in connections, we have few new options. It is Workday reports, but it's also Power BI. So now you can create connection to Power BI and manage it under Unity Catalog. But what's the point? The point is that now from Databricks workflows, you can refresh Power BI data set. And you can refresh both metadata for direct query or import mode. But for import mode, you can refresh also the whole model. So reload all data for the specified table. So you don't have to reload all of them. You can specify which one will be reloaded. Also, it supports dual mode. So if you have some tables in direct query mode, some in import mode, you also can use that functionality. And from Databricks, you can reload Databricks Power BI semantic models, so Power BI datasets. It's really amazing because usually you have whole workflow in Databricks, and then you had to do a lot of magic to trigger reload on Power BI side. Now it's integrated. Another update is also related to workflows. Now if you use in workflow SQL task, not notebook task, but SQL task, and you specify query, that output of that query can be returned to workflow. So for example, in that example, we have query which is returning IDs like this, and then in that workflow, that values are returned to that workflow. So then in another dependent task, we can read that values. And how we read it? We have new option here that when we add parameter, let's call it ID. And then if we go to values, then there is something like output. So output is that data frame from SQL, which is returned to workflow. So we can get first row, whole row. We can get value from first row, or we can iterate through all rows. So in that example, let's get first row from that data set, and we will see it in action. So in that task value reader, we have select, which will read that parameter. So let's see that run. So this is our first task, and we can see that the select is returned to the query, and then in value reader, it takes that parameter. So it's the ID from that query. But what is really interesting also that we can also loop values from that SQL statement. And to do that, we can use also native functionality, which is loop over task. So we can pass, for example, every that ID separately to that task. So let's go to loop. And as an input, we need to take, you see now we have here output rows, not first value, but all rows, because we will loop through them. Okay, save it. And then we can pass that value to that as a parameter, but not from the original task, but now from the looper. So let's change it, and it should be input, because it's input from the looper, and not whole array, but ID. So let's do like this, and let's run it and see the results. So there is the first creator is creating that SQL statement and returning the output. Okay, let's see it. So it's fetching output, and now not only 3, but all 3 values should be returned. and we will iterate through them. We can see that there is ID 1, 2, and 3. So whole SQL output as an array is returned, and to every of the task we pass separately that ID. So it's really great integration that, for example, you can you don't need to do Python anymore to get these values, but you can just have select statement which will orchestrate your workflow. Another update is related also to workflows. When you create serverless workflow running on serverless jobs, now it's possible to choose between performance optimize and standard mode. So standard mode is a really good solution for jobs because it's cost optimized. If you are not worried that your job will be deferred or will take longer, you can choose the standard mode, and it can reduce cost up to 70%. Now, obviously, the promotion for serverless will end in a few days. So it's something which can keep your price low for serverless jobs. I encourage everyone to try it and to enable it for serverless PySpark jobs. Another update is related to Google Sheets. Yes, we can now from Google Sheets query Databricks tables. So, for example, I use it to analyze query history table. So, from Google Sheet, you can execute select statement, and the values from that select statement will be inserted to the sheet. Like in that example. Let's wait a bit. Okay, we have headers and we have all the data. So it's really easy to import or export something from Databricks into Google Sheet. When I saw that there is new connector, first thing I thought about Lakeflow, but it's other way around, that you can use Google Sheets to analyze data from Databricks. So all Google Sheets lovers, I think, will love it. Another option is Git for dashboards, and actually it's Git from our Medium repository. And when you click here to Git for dashboards, you can see that this is dashboard stored on Git. And when you open it, we can see here that Git is managing versioning for that dashboard. It's a really nice solution. Worth to remember is that you store draft version on Git, not the version which you publish. So after updating it from Git, you need manually publish or to have some CI/CD to publish it. Another update is related to Genie samplings. So Genie now can see your data, not only metadata. So let's look here. We have that table with list of companies from Italy. And especially I put here province code and city as a shortcut, which is used in Italy. So before, when Genie knew only data and you ask, when Genie before knew only metadata and you ask for company from Verona, then it would not work. And now, thanks to sampling and reading data, Genie will know that you are using shortcuts. But let's check it in practice. When we are creating new Genie room, click new, we will select our data, so our company's table. There is option use samples values from these tables. And let's look to it. So we create it. And when we see here data set in context, or here, we can see that Genie added dictionary with values from that columns. So Genie know what is in that columns. And now when I ask, tell me company, our supplier, or otherwise, tell me which company is from Verona. And now because it knows our data, it should know that instead of name Verona in query, it should use that shortcut. You see, and it found it because it located, company is located in the province with the code VR. So not it didn't look for Verona, but for VR. So thanks to that sampling, work with tables in Genie is much more easier. Another update which I want to talk about is related to Unity catalog functions. So now in functions which are registered in Unity catalog, you can use custom dependencies also from external Python libraries. And soon you will also be able to specify environment version probably to keep all this dependency in that environment. So thanks to that, you can create custom function. For example, I created that function using EMDB library to get current score for one of the worst movies from the entire history, the new Snow White. And that function is querying that EMDB and returning in SQL that score. Another update is related to anomaly detection. There is now out-of-the-box option in beta in Databricks, which is detecting anomalies. So in that example, I created a transactions table which was updated every minutes for 10 minutes non-stop. And then I stop it. So my plan was that the anomaly detection will detect that the stream broke and that the table is no longer updated and will trigger alert. So let's look to it. When we go to let's see it. When we go to our schema, we can enable that anomaly detection. And basically what it's doing is creating the workflow, which is detecting the anomaly. It's running every 6 hours, but we can fully customize it. It's using some Python code and some functions from Databricks. And what it does, it's generating the dashboard. Where we can see our anomalies. So let's look to this dashboard. Okay, so it's detected that one table is unhealthy, and it's actually that table for which I stopped the updates because it detected that. Let's make it smaller. That the table was predicted to update it at some time, but the last update occurred 1 hour earlier. So it's quite nice because it can detect tables which are behaving abnormally, and also it's saving the data to that schema. So by using that data quality monitoring summary, we can define, for example, SQL alerts, which will trigger error, for example, on PagerDuty that something is not correct with our data, that the update stop or something strange is going on. So I think it's a really nice solution, which thanks to that, the Unity catalog will be more complete and really can be used as an enterprise data catalog, because there is also another option. Another option is actually not on schema level, but on catalog level, and it's data classification. So it's also quite powerful, and I tested and it's working pretty well. and it's detecting PII data, private data, which is in your database. So it's quite nice because you can prevent some leakage or be sure that, for example, only some people have access to these tables. Also, what is now in some preview, which is mentioned here, that it can automatically tag these columns. That, for example, this is email or this is telephone number. So then you can, in future, you will have some tag rules that, for example, tags with emails are anonymized or something like this. Yes, so it's really nice and also big improvement for Unity Catalog. Another thing also related to Unity Catalog is that we can say goodbye to Hive metastore. There is option to disable legacy access. So when we disable, we will remove link to Hive metastore. Basically, even many companies are not using Hive metastore anymore because they migrated already to Unity Catalog, but you still it was still present in Databricks, and you had to open port to communicate with that Hive metastore. And now it's disabled, so your, for example, SQL warehouse will not query that catalog because they are always listing the list of catalogs. So if you are not using Hive metastore, I really recommend to disable and forget about it. What's next? Next is AI Builder. So it's a really nice solution. There will be more builders, but we have first two. First of them is information extraction. So it's something which will extract information from documents. And I found it really useful to extract information from invoices. So you need to point it to the volume with that invoices. I saved there 3 invoices. It's in TXT files. Actually, there are quite good library for Spark, which is reading PDFs and convert them to TXT, so you can use them. And then you need to use a custom schema, but you need to pass example what values it should be extracted from that document. So you put here sample output and you create agent. So it's like load code builder for AI, and it's using managed version of that solutions. We can see that it configure all settings for information which we want to extract from the invoice. And also it's putting example because it has our invoice as text and output as a JSON. So it's okay. We can click update agent. And then it's creating the agent to extract that information from invoices. And we can go review, no review, and use. And it deployed that agent, and we can click start extraction. And it's just generating SQL query, which will extract that data. So it reads files, so we can add new files. It built model based on sample, which we provided. And we can provide new files, and it will extract data from that files using that query. So we can then productionize it really easy. Another AI builder is for model specialization. So it's something which is adding vector search, in fact, to model. So you can provide data with input and output, or you can copy some data, and then this model will be extended with that data. So I did some experiments that I fine-tuned model with some elixirs from Witcher. But basically what it's doing is that then extending your question with vector search from that data. In fact, you can specify manually that examples, but in fact, make more sense to have data and provide a data set. And it also then creating a SQL query which we'll use to communicate with that models. So basically what this AI builder is doing, they are creating like new models which you can reference in your AI query in SQL. And when we are at this AI functions and this kind of stuff, it's worth to remember that there is batch inference. So it's the same query which these models are using. It's AI query. So we can always provide response schema for that queries. And we can combine it with vector, so to not vector, but with variant types and to convert them to variant. So we can have like ready data frame output, but let's see it. So basically we have a list of incoming messages and we want to predict is it spam or not. And we want that this model will return Boolean, is it spam, or also confidence regarding that query. And it's really a nice integration of this AI query with SQL and also with this variant type. So we see that it created that variant type and we have confidence and spam, yes? Because it's returning JSON, LLM is returning JSON, but it's really to convert it to some better format than JSON. And then based on that, we can, for example, filter messages and decide what is spam or not. It's really nice, yes? It's a really simple solution and really nice. Okay, that's all about AI. Let's move to some other updates. So another update is PyDABS. It sounds strange, but it's called like this, yes. So it's actually a version of Databricks asset bundles in Python. So what basically it's doing, it's instead of YAML, we can use Python and build the code in Python to specify during deployment the list of tasks. So it's like the first step with that. But in fact, thanks that it's Python, it's more flexible. So you can use that function like Databricks bundle jobs and integrate it with your own code and use them as a decorators or next to your function. So it's kind of flexible. So for sure, we will have a lot of nice examples soon how you can use that PyDABS. Another update is related to SQL statement. There was a small improvement that you can, in one comment, you can alter a lot of columns. And it's also really useful. I found it useful, for example, for changing the order of columns. So now you can put as many columns as you want in alter column and update them all together. Another update is related to Delta Live tables. Create temporary view syntax was introduced, and it's creating views which are available only inside the pipeline. And last update is authentication to apps. So let's go to apps. When you create app, there is even now template which use user credentials. So basically before, when you created app, it used usually service principal because you deploy it using service principal. But you now have some kinds of credential pass-through. So for example, when you query SQL, you can pass actual user who is running and his permission and query the SQL in behalf of that user. And that's all for this month. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.